It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
Good evening. Welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. And now, for your host, Kimberly McLemore.
All right. Good evening and welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring entrepreneurs and women-owned businesses from across the country. I am your host, Kimberly McLemore, CEO and founder of the Women's Small Business Initiative, LLC, and award-winning author. And welcome to another night of sharing. With us, we have Adam Cole. Adam Cole is the couples financial coach. He helps couples who love each other make sure the money conversation doesn't get in the way. He also hosts the Couples Financial Coach podcast. Adam is a certified mediator with experience as a tax attorney and financial advisor. He has a Duke Law degree and a master's in tax law from NYU. Adam is a musician, vegan, and social justice advocate. Through his Pathways to Prosperity program, numerous couples have achieved financial clarity, teamwork, and peace of mind. So without further ado, please help me welcome to my platform, Mr. Adam Cole. Hey, Adam, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks so much for having me. How are you?
Oh, it's a pleasure, and I'm doing great. Thank you. And I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to get together tonight so we could get this done. I'm just excited to have this conversation, the number one conversation that people argue about all the time is money.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, but before we dive into this conversation, why don't you tell the listeners just a little bit more about who Adam Cole really is?
Sure. Well, certainly you mentioned in my bio that I am a former attorney, and I also worked as a financial advisor, and I'm a certified mediator. And those weren't planned per se in order to get me to being a couples financial coach, but back in around late 2017, early 2018, I had started my coaching business and had a moment of realization that this is one of the biggest issues couples face, that money is a number one stressor in relationships. It's a top cause of divorce. And when I went looking for content, for coaches, for podcasts, books about it, I was shocked that there were so few. And I said, with my background as a mediator, I also studied economics and finance and tax law. I think I have the right tools and skills to make an impact for couples. Mm-hmm. And I set off to learn everything I could. And of course, that process continues every day. But now my work centers around helping couples to go from that place of either feeling overwhelmed about money and you don't know where to start, or maybe there's some tension or fighting or anxiety, and help them move through those spaces and come out the other side with clarity around where they're at and where they want to get to. They're working as a team in partnership, and they have the peace of mind that comes along with knowing you and your spouse or partner are working together, and you have a plan that actually fulfills on the things that matter most to you.
Right. Well, I'm sitting here, like I said earlier, in just what you just said, that this is obviously the number one conversation that people have as couples. And then again, it's the conversation they don't really have. And so when I'm sitting here listening, I'm thinking about, you have this, Duke Law degree, a master's in tax law. I mean, you've done all these amazing things. I want to ask you, what did your family say when you decided, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to do this, the couples financial coach? Because I probably would have been like, son.
Well, you know what? I'm sure they had feelings about it, and they've expressed them from time to time, but I don't think it really shocked anybody because I had started off in a more traditional legal setting, working at a big accounting firm,
Mm-hmm.
and I also was doing a lot of community organizing and advocacy work, and then I moved to a nonprofit working on housing and homelessness, and so there was this sense, and they could get that I was looking for something different
Mm-hmm.
and something that felt closer to my heart and my strengths. And the beautiful part of it is that as I've built this business, I had the realization that my law background, of course, I always brought that way of thinking and the knowledge that I have to help my clients where I can without giving legal advice. But
Mm-hmm.
I realized that there's so much connection between certain areas of the law and what I do, in particular, things like marital law, so prenuptial and postnuptial agreements, and also estate planning law, so things like wills and trusts and advance directives. And so as we speak, I am doing the work to reinstate my New York law license, which I put on retired status because I didn't know if I'd
Okay.
be practicing law again,
Mm-hmm.
so that I can start to offer some of these services as well. They really align with my passion for helping people have the important but difficult conversations that
Mm-hmm.
really make their relationships stronger, their lives better, and give peace of mind to them and their families.
Right, right. And yeah, because I was sitting here thinking, wow, I was like, is he still doing both? And I remember you saying earlier that you started this business. So when did you actually start the Couples Financial Coach business itself?
Well, the coaching business started in late 2017, and I was helping people with finances. I was helping them with relationships, helping them with communication, but not in any coherent, combined sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was on a networking call with somebody who said, "What about financial communication? That's a top cause of divorce." And as I mentioned earlier, I was kind of that, hand on
Mm-hmm.
chin. And like when I went and researched it, like I said, there was so little out there
Mm-hmm.
that this was, I believe, February of 2018. So 3.5 years ago now. And I just threw myself headlong into it, started making YouTube videos, started
Mm-hmm.
writing blogs, started creating and social media posts and looking for clients, putting together programs. And it's really beautiful to see how everything has coalesced and become so much more coherent over time.
Right, right. And I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking, in the few years that you've been doing this, I can imagine. Tell me the experience that you had during the pandemic because people were at home 24/7 with each other, driving each other crazy. Then and during that time frame, there were many people who did lose their jobs or they were, pushed back some on their jobs, or either some of them had jobs, but they were overwhelmed. There were so many things going on. What was the experience like for you during that time frame?
For me personally, business wise,
Both.
well, business wise, my clients were feeling the effects of that, no doubt. And, while so many couples would benefit from this work, the time also has to be right. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had some clients who needed to hold off or push back their program because there was just too much to manage with the kids being at home
Mm-hmm.
on top of their regular lives and working from home and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, on the other hand, I also had clients who weren't doing as many things outside the house. And so I think that helped them create the peace of mind, or excuse me, I think that helped them create the mental space and energy to say, maybe it's time we finally tackle this thing that we've kind of been bumbling and stumbling through for years, right? And it's
Right.
affected not only our bottom line, but the quality of our relationship. And then as far as my active clients, I mean, listen, I'm not going to pretend like there were no impacts on
Mm-hmm.
my clients. Some ways, obviously, negative. I had clients whose businesses cut their time in half, for example, and so their wages in half. On the other hand, I had clients who are therapists, and for a lot of them, their ledgers filled up, right? There were a lot of people really struggling, and they finally took that step to reach out for mental health support from a licensed therapist or counselor. And then some of my clients who already had their finances in order, I think of one in particular where, in this case, the husband, his pay got cut, and yet the wife still was able to leave her full-time job.
Wow.
To figure out what she wanted to do, because they realized, wait, okay, if we just do this and this, we could actually live on his salary. And even while he's making half, we've saved up money for this. So I'm going to leave this job that isn't vibing anymore and take a little bit of time to reflect. And now she changed careers into a totally different industry. And she feels really empowered and excited about that direction, right? Wow. Which is something that a lot of people did during the pandemic, was if you had the privilege to be able to take that breath and step back, like, okay, what's working in my life? What's not working?
Exactly.
Right? And for her,
ET is Ryan Seacrest here. People always say it's good to unwind, but that's easier said than done. The exception, Chumba Casino. They actually make it easier done than said, or at least the same. Chumba Casino is an online social casino with hundreds of casino-style games like slots and blackjack. Play for fun. Play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Sign up now and collect your free welcome bonus at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
Recently, a new client called me and started by saying, "Mr. Morgan, I really need your help, but I'm just a nobody." Those words stunned me, and I immediately called him back, and we're now helping him and his family after a terrible accident. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Everybody who comes to our firm at their time of need is a somebody. I grew up poor, but my grandmother was like a queen to us. At Morgan & Morgan, our goal is to level the playing field for you and your family at your time of need. The insurance company has unlimited money and resources. You need a firm who can fight them toe-to-toe. For right at 30 years, we have fought them in courtrooms throughout America. Our results speak for themselves. And always remember this: everybody is a somebody, and nobody is a nobody. Visit forthepeople.com to learn about our firm, Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
Injured? Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
She saw that career wasn't going the way she wanted it to, but because they had done the work to understand where they were at financially, to build up their rainy day fund, to get everything in order, to prioritize their needs and expenses and wants within their spending and overall plan, she was able to make a bold move even while her husband's pay was getting cut.
Wow. And that's exactly, I mean, just what you just talked about is people planning. We don't, a lot of people don't think about, well, this is the rainy day fund. People are so into living from day to day or from week to week or from paycheck to paycheck. Nobody could have ever expected that a pandemic was going to hit. And so, the thought process of having to sit back and say, oh, I wish I had done this, or I wish I had done that. The thing that concerns me now is that as we're continuing pulling up out of this pandemic and things are moving forward, everything's going back up. Prices are higher, food is higher, all the basic living things that people were before, when we couldn't get out and we couldn't do anything but, order whatever it is we need to have in order to survive from day to day. People really took the time to reevaluate. But then now you can see some of those folks going right back to where they were at before because they don't take the time to deal with the financial side. That is the most important side of what you need to have, whether you're a couple or not. So,
absolutely.
Talk to me about your typical type of a client that may come to you who is, not so much whether they're, in a great situation financially as far as having a great job, but those typical people, like I said, who don't sit down and have that conversation and they're struggling. What advice do you provide to those individuals?
Great question. And yeah, my clients really span a variety of incomes, right? I have clients whose household income is $500,000 a year, and I have clients whose are way under that, even maybe below six figures. And the fundamentals are largely the same. right? And I like to think of it in a few different steps. Step one is you need to build trust and safety around talking about money, right? And the thing is that a lot of couples, they see their money's not going the way they want it to. Maybe they're struggling. Maybe they're arguing about it, or they're avoiding it because they've argued in the past, or they're worried about there being tension, right? Or maybe it's just an anxiety-inducing topic altogether, so they're avoiding it, right? And how do you overcome that? You have to start to build a sense of trust and safety and comfort talking about money and doing it with your spouse, with your partner, right? So that's my bedrock. That is the foundation that every couple starts off with. And that is the exploration of the ways that you think about money and your experiences around money and your values relating to money. And that process, by reflecting on that and sharing it with your significant other, that helps you start building that trust and safety, right? For some couples, to have even a single money-related conversation that doesn't end with them feeling terribly,
right,
that's a huge victory, right? And even that can be a total game changer. So start off by helping them build that trust and safety, and then along the way, getting crystal clear on where they're at financially right now, right? What that entails, how much you're making, how much you're spending, any debts you have, any assets you own, which are things that have some sort of value, and then going through and figuring out, hey, what are my most important goals and priorities, both as an individual and as a couple financially, right? How do we figure that out? And those could be bigger picture priorities in terms of we really want to move into a house, so we want to save for a down payment. It could also be on a regular basis as far as, okay, you know what, we have been spending a lot of money on streaming services, but which ones are our top 2 or 3, right? And then we can save $50 a month, or whatever that may be, right? Which are our favorite restaurants to go to, so we can make sure that we're being intentional and maximizing the use of our dollars, right? And this is all, of course, customizable. I hope that people can tell, couple to couple, right? There's no, you need to cut out all your spending or you need to do it this quickly. That is not the way that I preach. I hope that I don't preach at all to my clients, really, other than to be open with each other and to do the work needed to get clarity around their numbers, because we can't just deal with the emotions. We also have rent to pay, have bills to pay, right? So we need to be clear on the tactical and practical side. So just to recap, right, that foundational building trust, safety, and comfort, talking about money, getting clear where you're at financially today, get on the same page as far as your priorities in terms of bigger picture goals and also regular spending, and then together craft a plan that actually gets you from where you are today to where you want to be, right? Using all of that information. And along the way, having all sorts of important conversations about things like retirement and children and insurance and financial goals and fears and worries that continue to strengthen your relationship with each other, as well as giving you more of that insight into, okay, actually, what would be the best way for us to use this money? Because that answer is unique. No one can sit up in their ivory tower and tell you the answer for you.
Exactly.
Right? And so that's what I believe in. If there's anything that I do preach, at least intentionally, I can't say I'm perfect and I don't. Right?
I was like, wait a minute, I know you're preaching a little bit.
Yeah, but if there's one thing that I do preach, it's that I want my clients or people who consume my content to have the tools to be able to do this kind of thing for themselves, right? So that they're not dependent on me for a lifetime, because change is a constant in our world, in our lives. And I've had clients who come to me and they say, but just tell me, are we doing okay financially? And I'm like, I'm not going to answer that for you right now. You know, I that would be a disservice to you, right? Are you doing okay financially? Well, that depends. What are your goals? What matters most to you? For some people, they want to build enormous wealth and pass it on to generations, or donate massive amounts to causes they believe in. For other people, they're just looking to subsist, have a simple lifestyle, and, take ownership over their own time and energy, and a million other variations. So that is part of what I help people suss out and talk to each other about, so that they can bring their financial choices and their financial plan into alignment with the things that matter to them.
Right. But I guess, my thought has always been trying to understand, or I guess let me ask you this, that what is your thought process to why people, beyond the fear or trust, they don't want to have this conversation? What is some of the things that you have come up with or have learned throughout these last few years, or years prior before you started your own business, that you have heard, or feelings of why people just don't want to have this conversation?
Yeah, there's a lot of different pieces to it. At the highest level, I think very few people feel comfortable talking about this, which means when they have children, they often pass on that energy, and they don't necessarily change the pattern unless they do something new. I think there are also a lot of other just social norms and around politeness. I think there are other things that loom in terms of if we were going to talk, let's say, with friends and colleagues, that's going to be really uncomfortable, because we may have to face down the realities that, at least at a population level, and so maybe at a lot of times at the firm level too, there's going to be pay discrepancies amongst people, even for the same work, right? Whether that's a man being paid more than a woman, or a white person being paid more than a person of color, whatever the case may be, and this is not, of course, the case in every firm, but we know from the data we've collected at a big picture societal level that these are the trends. And so talking about it, to me, means also talking about some of these issues which are uncomfortable for people, right? To deal with the differences that aren't necessarily the fault of the person who's experiencing that difference. That's not necessarily something as conventional of a point of view, but it resonates with me. Obviously for listeners, they may have a different perspective, but certainly the money being a taboo topic is something that I think is widely appreciated. And then when it boils down to it, especially because we don't have that personal comfort around money, we are afraid of judgment from ourselves or other people. For example, what if I open my account and it turns out, oh my God, I really have a lot less money than I thought. And so we push it off. And you push it off today, but today becomes a month, becomes a year, becomes a decade, right? The other thing is, maybe you feel some worry or anxiety around, will my partner judge me? Right? Maybe I think that I should know more about finances than I do, or I should be in a better position than I am.
ET Ryan Seacrest here. People always say it's good to unwind, but that's easier said than done. The exception, Chumba Casino. They actually make it easier done than said, or at least the same. Chumba Casino is an online social casino with hundreds of casino-style games like slots and blackjack. Play for fun. Play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Sign up now and collect your free welcome bonus at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Recently, a new client called me and started by saying, Mr. Morgan, I really need your help, but I'm just a nobody. Those words stunned me, and I immediately called him back. And we're now helping him and his family after a terrible accident. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Everybody who comes to our firm at their time of need is a somebody. I grew up poor, but my grandmother was like a queen to us. At Morgan & Morgan, our goal is to level the playing field for you and your family at your time of need. The insurance company has unlimited money and resources. You need a firm who can fight them toe-to-toe. For right at 30 years, we have fought them in courtrooms throughout America. Our results speak for themselves. And always remember this. Everybody is a somebody, and nobody is a nobody. Visit forthepeople.com to learn about our firm. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
Injured? Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
And if I start talking to my partner about it, maybe they're going to be upset about it or feel like I'm not a reliable person for them to be with, or right. It could raise a whole host of other concerns. Or maybe I know my partner has some poor habits, but I am the non-confrontational type. And so I don't really want to talk about it because I'm worried I'm going to get upset and fly off the handle. And I don't like to be that kind of person, right? So there's a whole host of reasons that boil down to essentially discomfort with the topic, fear of what they'll see if they really dive in from themselves or their partner, and worry about judgment, right? And then the thing is, as I mentioned before, because those things lead you to try and avoid the topic, then if you fast forward to a year later and you've successfully avoided the topic for another year, now you probably feel even worse, right? Because now you're another year older, and oh my God, I still haven't looked at my account in now 4 years instead of 3.
Right.
And so now there's even deeper shame, which pushes you even more to avoid it, right? And I see clients where at least one, if not both of them, have been stuck in that cycle for a really long time. Or there might be one partner who is really cognizant of the financial situation, but their frustration has boiled over, and now they are either holding it in and dealing with a lot of anxiety, or they're the type for whom it spills out and they are getting on their partner's case, probably not being super nice about it, on them all the time, giving them that passive aggressive or that side eye, and
or the
that's
ultimatum.
Also no fun,
right? Or the ultimatum, right? And usually the ultimatum ends up in divorce because of the non-conversation. But I always sit back and think those, like, when people decide to get together and they want to, become this couple and they start living with each other, I'm thinking, why are you not having this conversation before you jump into that? Because the ultimate thing, like you just said, it continues on day after day, month after month, year after year, and you're realizing you're still stuck in this, haven't had this conversation, and things have gotten worse. And then, something that you love this person, but the end result is, I'm going to divorce you because you can't get yourself financially together. So it doesn't get simpler, right? If for the average couple anyway, okay, they get together, then let's say they get married, right? Well, maybe they're renting, but then a lot of people like to buy a home, right? And then maybe they want to have kids, and then they have aging parents who might need financial support or want to move in with you or what have you. Right. And so the point is, your financial lives only get more and more complex, and then you're like, oh, retirement, I'm finally smooth sailing now. Well, not really, because if you're no longer earning income, and now you're what we call a fixed income situation, if you have financial anxiety in particular, that can go through the roof, because you're like, oh my God, is it going to be enough? Is it going to be enough? Is it going to be enough? Right? And you're just sitting there every day watching that number get lower and lower, and eventually you panic, right? And I've seen this, I don't usually work with clients who are at the retirement phase, but I've certainly seen it in my own family, right? With people who've retired on that fixed income, and the panic sets in. Right. Yeah. It's I guess it's like a catch-22, it's like I said, it's a conversation you have to have, and you should have, and you should definitely know your financial situation. And, and this goes for personal and for business, because even people who come into business, it's the same concept. It's like, if you don't know what you're doing personally, how can you jump into a business and start a business when you can't even get your personal financial situation under order, So it's that constant thing of fear, on both sides. But, when we're looking, like I said, at the couple situation, I don't know if it's because I'm getting older and you have a little more wisdom about, this is life, and we do know life gets in the way. We do know things happen. But at the same token is that, one thing that doesn't change in the reality is that the bills will always come. Whether you're retired or not, those bills will still come, because that's the reality of life when you're still here. So, having these conversations, I just always try to figure out, why it is so hard. And I know, I'm not married now, but I definitely have had, the same situations happen being in a relationship or wanting to have that relationship before we start to dive into jumping into, oh, well, let's live together. Oh, let's do this. And it becomes a sore thumb. And it's like,
Yep.
And not judging you. I just need to know, so it's like, you need to have this conversation because there's nothing worse than starting out on the wrong foot. And I just think, two heads are better than one when it comes to having these types of conversations.
Absolutely. And if you are in a situation where it's a marriage or long-term committed partnership, actually having two people involved can be a really wonderful advantage, right? Because, for example, as a single person, let's say you want to start a business, and that would take all of your time to work on it. Well, then you're going to have no income. And unless you're lucky enough to have a benefactor or wealthy benefactor or a bunch of money saved up, then it's going to be kind of hard to start that business and give your full self over to it. But if you have a partner, maybe there's a way to work it out, right? Maybe they keep their job and that helps to cover the bills, and you invest in your business. And if it doesn't go well, okay, you go back to work. But if it does go well, then you both stand to benefit too. And so there are all kinds of advantages. And I mean, for me anyway, I'm definitely the kind of person who is meant to be with someone else. I think that's human beings often flourish when they're in the right relationship.
Absolutely.
And what I believe when it comes to money is it is a big stressor and cause of divorce at the moment, but it doesn't have to be that way. And not only does it not have to be a big stressor or cause of fights, done right, it actually brings the two of you closer together, right? Because think about that. That's the definition of vulnerability, is to open up about an uncomfortable topic. And beyond that, imagine the two of you are able to create a vision together for what you're building, and then you're actually working on it as a team, right? And in the process, you're sharing what matters to you and what doesn't maybe matter quite as much to you. So you're learning about yourself and your partner's learning about you too. I mean, I remember one client, they had some debt and the wife had a lot of anxiety around it. And so she had basically convinced herself, I cannot spend money on anything unnecessary for myself while we have this debt. And interestingly, they actually had a significantly positive net worth. They had done a good job preparing for and investing for retirement. They had a lot of equity in their home. But when I asked her, what would you want if money were not an object? If you could have your Harry Potter magic wand and just whatever you wanted that cost money, she had no answer for me. She had gotten so embedded in that point of view that she shouldn't be able to spend on herself while they had that debt. It took 3 sessions for her to be able to think of anything she wanted, right? But then 2 things happened when she did. First of all, that list went from 0 to 100,000 real quick as far as the cost of those things, right?
Right.
And the other thing that happened was her husband was like, wow, now I actually can be a better husband because I know what you want. I know what you'd like to have. I know what you care about.
Wow.
And, he didn't realize before how much that was missing, right? You just kind of, as you said, we're just going along our day to day, so many of us, right? And so it can be easy to not stop and think about that or ask about that. But listen, I know there's little, if anything, that motivates me more to grow my business and generate more income and all of that than wanting to give everything that to my fiance, everything that she wants, right? And one day, God willing, when we have kids, give them everything they want, right? Everything they need to thrive. And that's, I think, true for a lot of people as well. I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. I have my things I enjoy. Okay.
We wouldn't be human, and then you think about the fact that, like you were saying, just with the young lady you were talking about just a few minutes ago, that her biggest concern was, I can't do anything for myself. And, we live and breathe and work so hard every day to have the life that we want to have. So it's so unfair to think that when you're getting up every day and doing what you're doing, and you're paying your bills, you're saving your money, and you can't enjoy life. I mean, it's like you can't take any of this with you. And I think that's the part that people do sometimes, have a hard time grappling with, is that, I'm trying to save my retirement. I'm trying to maintain what I'm doing today. We're looking so far out in the future, but we don't really know what that future is going to be. And, it's that constant, thing that just drives you crazy. I think when you really do try to do the best, do it the right way, I guess is the thing I'm trying to say. So,
yeah. Well, and listen, right. And
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Recently, a new client called me and started by saying, Mr. Morgan, I really need your help, but I'm just a nobody. Those words stunned me, and I immediately called him back, and we're now helping him and his family after a terrible accident. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Everybody who comes to our firm at their time of need is a somebody. I grew up poor, but my grandmother was like a queen to us. At Morgan & Morgan, our goal is to level the playing field for you and your family at your time of need. The insurance company has unlimited money and resources. You need a firm who can fight them toe-to-toe. For right at 30 years, we have fought them in courtrooms throughout America. Our results speak for themselves. And always remember this, everybody is a somebody, and nobody is a nobody. Visit forthepeople.com to learn about our firm. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
Injured? Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
people often view it as an either or, even though it's not. I either save for retirement or I enjoy my life today. Well, why not both, right? Like that adorable commercial with that little girl, right? It says, why not both? ¿Por qué no los dos, right? I like this. You can make progress toward retirement planning and enjoying life today, right? You know, if you've got, let's say, $1,000 a month left over after your expenses, you can't put 1,000 toward retirement and 1,000 toward enjoying life today, but you could put 500 toward each, for example.
Exactly.
And people, because money is a topic that we're not used to discussing, it's very easy to fall into this sense of frustration or hopelessness, or it's either this way or that way, or it's a yes or no, 1 or 0 binary. And a big part of what happens when people start having these conversations and when my clients start going through my program is they realize that there are actually a lot more creative options out there than they would realize because there was too much else in the way before for them to really even think of creative solutions. They were just putting all their mental energy toward avoiding the topic, or to like yelling at their partner, or to try not to get too upset when their partner yelled at them, or what have you. And once that weight kind of gets lifted off of your shoulders, I mean, I had one client who they were going to end up divorced if they didn't tackle this. And the husband's biggest frustration was they worked really hard to buy a house, and because of their money, he couldn't turn it into their dream home. Right. Well, fast forward just a couple of sessions in, and they didn't have any big difference as far as how much money they had. Right. They still were in about the same place. It'd only been a few weeks, but because that weight had been lifted off of his shoulders, because when he thought about money, there wasn't this huge like kind of thing there that was just like, oh my God, this is terrible. It wasn't like, you know, gray, disturbing skies. All of a sudden, he started doing a whole bunch of projects around the house. right? Because there were a lot of projects that actually didn't cost anything or cost very little. And I remember he gets on the call, Adam, I started doing all these projects around the house, and my dad is helping, and I got the kids helping. And he was like a bubbly teenager or child, right? And again, pretty much nothing had changed about their finances. It was this sense of, oh, we are not stuck in that pit anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the movie Homeward Bound.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
With the dogs, and
right?
The cat. Yeah. So it's like when the golden retriever towards the end, right? He falls into that pit, and you're like, oh my God, no! But then he gets out of the pit, right?
Yep.
And like he's got new life, and it's just amazing, right? So. Yeah. That's what it seems like, right? You can be like Shadow, the golden retriever, and get out of that pit, and it'll change the way you look at so many things.
Absolutely. And the main thing with this conversation is communication is the key to everything. If you're not communicating, you can't move forward. You will be stagnant. And that's really, the goal to everything in life, and like I said, just having this simple conversation, it could change everything. It wasn't even about just making more money or having more money, but just having the conversation and understanding where you're at and knowing where you're at in life. It truly does help you figure out how you can move, whether it's forward, right, left, backwards, whatever you need to do in order to be satisfied, and that's important because, that's always a number one problem in whether you're in a couple or just you're in a partner relationship or whatever the case may be. If you don't communicate, it's always going to be a problem. And so, I have to applaud you because you have a heck of a business to deal with all these different personalities and the craziness that goes with it. But, you have the right persona to do it, and definitely have the background. I love what you do, and this has been such a fun conversation. But before we go, I got just a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
So talk a little bit about your podcast. I love talking to other podcasters. So tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, so it's called the Couples Financial Coach Podcast, and hopefully that communicates what it is all about. And it's about everything at the intersection of relationships and money. And the 5th season is out now, and we have recently surpassed 50 episodes. And this season's theme is all around communication and how to improve your communication and different ways to talk about money, whether it's with your spouse or I just recorded an episode about talking money with your family, for example. And, I love what you said about communication being the key. And I just want to say to people, right, communication doesn't mean you get up on stage and give some like TEDx talk about how you and your spouse should approach your mortgage, right? That's sometimes communication looks like, oh my God, I feel really scared because I don't know where we're at, and I feel kind of embarrassed that I don't know more. And that's it. That's communication, right? Just
exactly.
It doesn't mean you have to be an expert. And that's really what we try and bring to bear in the podcast is all different kinds of conversations that can help you get unstuck from wherever you're stuck and take that next step forward, right? Start the conversation, have a good conversation, figure out how to translate that into your actual plan and finances. And I get to talk to amazing guests week after week. So it's a joy to be a podcaster.
Yes, it is. And like I said, I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to meet you and you be on my show because this topic.
Thank you, Sam.
Oh, you're very welcome because this topic is definitely needed. I wish we had more time, but I know we're getting close to here. We're actually at the end, but please tell everybody, Adam, how they can reach you if they want your services and how they can listen to your podcast.
Sure. Well, so my website is couplesfinancialcoach.com. And that is my handle on Instagram as well. So that's the best place to find me. And I offer a really neat free quiz on my website at couplesfinancialcoach.com/quiz. And the quiz helps you figure out what your couple's money personality type is. So not your individual money personality, but as a couple, right? Like, where are you at? How well are you doing? understanding each other and communicating about this. And then I give you a free tool based on wherever you land. And you can find my podcast on the website as well, couplesfinancialcoach.com/podcast. The website is really the hub for everything. You can book a consultation with me and all of that. But the podcast is also on all the major libraries, Apple, Spotify, etc.
All right. Well, again, Adam, it has been such a pleasure having you on tonight. Do you have any last words for my listeners?
It's possible. It's possible for you. We are not born with our relationship to money set in stone. It's something that develops over time, which means that we can also develop it in a positive direction. And having these dialogues will make a tremendous difference in the quality of your life.
Amen. I couldn't have said that better myself.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Again, thank you for coming on the show. And before we close tonight, I hope you all learned the importance of having that financial talk, which always leads me to asking the listeners, what conversations are you having as a couple, or what dreams and goals are you trying to reach? All you have to do if you want to have that conversation with me is just reach out to me at Kimberly at WSBILC@gmail.com, and let's chat about those dreams and let's turn those dreams into goals. And if you want more of your resource for success, you can donate to support the podcast. We have a Cash App that's available, which we'll have in the information that you can find, as well as, or you can go to www.WSBILC.com, which is the website. And again, we would like to thank you all for listening to us tonight. We'll be back next week with more amazing guests. Be sure to follow us on iHeartRadio, or you can also download our mobile app on Google Play or wherever you listen to your podcast. But until then, enjoy the rest of your evening and good night.
Good night, everyone. We will be back next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Follow us on Spreaker, www.spreaker.com/user/WSBI. View our new WSBI website anytime at www.wsbillc.com and on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.
Hey, it's Ryan Seacrest. Life comes at you fast, which is why it's important to find some time to relax. A little you time. Enter Chumba Casino. With no download required, you can jump on anytime, anywhere for the chance to redeem some serious prizes. So treat yourself with Chumba Casino and play over 100 online casino-style games, all for free. Go to ChumbaCasino.com to collect your free welcome bonus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
People are driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. The hiring process can be slow and overwhelming. Simplify hiring with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform. With over 350 million global monthly visitors according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. That's Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Terms and conditions apply.